Before we start today's presentation, a very important point, a disclaimer that the stocks that we are going to talk about today, it is not a recommendation. These are not buy sell, recommendations at all. We are just going to discuss about some of the companies that Gaurav has visited and some of the products and what is in general happening in the electronics manufacturing industry. So, if you are planning to invest in any of the companies, please talk to your financial advisor or your, whoever you take advice from, and do your own due diligence. We're doing something very different today. I'm going to introduce you to Gaurav Paul. Gaurav is, we got to know each other from Value Picker. He's a very, very good investor, but his background, he worked in the automotive, the EV and the battery space for the last 10 years. The last job that he had was with Mercedes in India. And then he quit all of that and got into full-time investing. And Gaurav very recently went and visited the Electronica 2025 in Bangalore, and we were discussing what he learned. And then I thought that let's sort of capture it so that not only one is we can come back to it later, and the second is that it sort of benefits others like me who are not able to go to Bangalore and visit this fair. So, second, I don't know. So, Gaurav, you can maybe start sharing your screen and tell us how was your experience with with this Electronica.
Sure, Abhishek. Please let me know if my screen is visible.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it was really amazing to see how the ecosystem sort of developed over the last few years. I mean, with electronics, we keep hearing that, India is making a mark in the electronic space. And the companies that suddenly comes to our mind is Dixon and Kane, Sirma, and all of the assembly guys, people
Right.
who are making a PCB to a PCBA. So all the component manufacturer, but there are other players in the industry as well. Somebody who's supplying chemicals, somebody who's doing the testing equipment. And what we noticed was, number one, there was a large set of unlisted players. That was number one. Number two, there were a lot of interest from foreign machine manufacturers, especially from Vietnam, Thailand, China, and other places, even Germany and Switzerland, who had very small sales offices in India, and they were trying to grow their sales office. And these exhibition stalls were heavily manned by Indians as well as their European, Japanese, Vietnamese, or Taiwanese counterparts. So we got to interact with a lot of people to understand the ecosystem, and I truly feel like we are just at the start of this value chain. I mean, and over the next 5 years, it can really grow big. Especially looking at our own demand. I mean, if we only cater to our domestic demand, then only, that is itself huge, and then, export and everything. So one interesting link that I would probably share with you is this link, where all the exhibitors, I mean, there were around 700 plus stalls out there, and these are the who's who of the industry, almost 780, 748.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that was a lot. I mean, and a lot of these were small players with really good technology. And so we met somebody who's supplying to, say, wiring harness manufacturing machine to Motherson Sumi. So these sort of suppliers also we got to meet, and we also collected a lot of their phone numbers, sales numbers, and so that we can later connect with them for other stuff. So I'll go to a small presentation that I made. It's not very nicely made, but in the presentation, I've avoided talking about Sirma, Keynes, Avalon, Dixon, because they are large and we sort of know what they're doing. But I found something which wowed me or excited me, players which are still not discovered or talked about in the electronic space. Okay. So I'll just, for the brief view of the audience, I just want to just take anybody, take the audience through this flowchart. I mean, what we do is we have a base PCB board. What I'll do is one second, I'll just add a pointer. Sorry, I don't know if the pointer is visible.
No, so it's not the pointer. You have to take the go to the first. No, not the first one. Yeah, take the laser point.
Yeah, so basically the process, I've just oversimplified the entire process. So you have a base PCB board. So there are some players who are supplying the base PCB board, but mostly this board comes from China to India. Then on top of that, you have the printed circuit, which are etched on the board. And here we have a lot of chemical process that goes on. And finally, we put in all the electronics as per the requirement of the BOM, and we then make the electronic this thing. Yeah. So I'll just again go through the layers. I mean, so the base PCB board is something like a copper clad laminate. So you have the non-insulating layer, which is the green layer, and then you have copper layer, and then you stack on top of each other. Now, as your PCB board becomes more and more important, or it needs to be more and more durable, like in defense application, railways application, or maybe space application, you go to higher thickness boards so that you have redundancy available, and the cost of the board also increases. So one of the player that I was very surprised was actually Carborundum, who are in and their division of technical ceramics. So they make substrates like this on which PCBs can be made. Initially, you would think that PCBs are made on plastics, but they also had solutions on which on ceramics on which PCBs can be printed, and it can be etched and everything. So that was very surprising for me. And India doesn't consume much of it. They are exporting most of it. I think around 100 crores worth they are exporting. They also had some other fluid coupling.
So if I may interrupt, I mean, how different, or what is the difference? Did you get a chance to talk to them about the ceramics versus plastics, or the normal stuff that is there? And yes, what is the difference in cost?
Cost-wise, I think it's 5 or 6 times more expensive, and it's generally built as per specification for very custom designed. I mean, you won't get it in consumer electronics. These are for class 3 electronics. I mean, we have like 3 classes: class 1, class 2, and class 3. Class 1 is like your consumer electronics, which are used in your everyday usage. Class 2 is it's a bit more reliable, and class 3 is a further more. And most of these components are as per order. And the usage, I mean, where it differs from our plastic is that due to, say, heat or maybe conductivity requirements or reliability requirements, your plastic might bend in a heated condition. Say it's used in a missile. So in those sort of situations, you sort of use these ceramic substrate for making your PCBs. That's what I understood from the discussion.
Okay.
And we also had all this fuel cell. I mean, they had components for fuel cell, thermal, and they also had something for electronics over here. They had a section over here. I will share this presentation so that people can expand and see it. And semiconductors, and also vacuum electronics. So this vacuum electronics was very interesting for them because typically plastics are not used. These are used inside a vacuum or space application per se. Yeah, so that's where they have attraction. Any questions on this one?
No. So other than Carborundum, anybody else who's making this?
In the exhibition, there was nobody. I mean, they really stood out. They were at a corner and they really stood out, and people were visiting them and they're like, "Look, what are you guys doing?" I mean, that was our biggest question. So I don't know if anybody does it. I mean, we anyways have like 2-3 players only in this space, but I'm not aware domestically if there are anybody who does this one.
Okay, very interesting.
Yeah, and also the domestic market is not yet ready for this. Maybe our defense industry or defense electronics grows, this becomes more mainstream. But currently, they are mostly exporting these items.
Okay.
Yeah. So these were also some of the components that I could click from there. So, for example, diode and thyristor ceramics, and then EV fuse insulators, relays, and precision engineering ceramics, which we know. And then these were some inserts for high-speed railways and some heating ceramics. Yeah.
So who are they selling these products? The second
Um, so I could not get the names from them, but then they said that these are, I mean, the bulk of the order goes to defense application, maybe in Europe and Israel, those sort of geographies. So I don't have the customer per
Okay.
se specifically, but again, I can.
But most of it is exports. They're not
Yeah,
selling all that much in India.
no, yeah, and mostly it's kind of defense players. So,
Okay.
I mean, out of 100
So,
crores, probably
the other way to look at it is that the entire India opportunity is yet to sort of open up.
yes,
If we look at it from a positive perspective.
yes. As we get into more complicated like ICPMs and all of those things, probably they use these sort of ceramics because of the heat and everything. You don't want your PCBs to warp or melt or lose conductivity.
Okay. Okay.
So in the next slide, what I've done is I've just listed, I don't want to go through all of this, but this just talks about the PCB making process. And I mean, from that PCB, you make all this circuitry inside it. So from that, remember that green board, you kind of paste one green board, one copper, one green board, one copper, and then you make a circuitry on it. So there are some companies who are in this space where they use etching. So the processes are like cleaning and surface preparation. Then you use some photoresist application. So you put masks and then you kind of put a light sensitive layer. Then you expose it, you etch the part. That is where some plays are. Then you strip off the etching. Then you kind of drill the surface so that you can have connections between. And you also do, I mean, you can do layering as a precursor. So your PCB board can have layering at start, or it can also have layering post drilling. And then you have shoulder mask application, some silk screen printing. So for example, labels and all of those things, and some surface finish. And post surface finish, you kind of put some chemicals on top so that it does not absorb moisture or the conductivity is maintained. So there are some plays which I discovered over there. So one very surprising was Grauer and Weil. They have some application through which you can do some of the process which I mentioned in the start, like for example, electroplating of your PCB, some components. So you want to have some plating on top of it, that can be done. Also, once you apply the mask, you have to remove certain material. So chemically you remove that material, or with light you remove that material. So to remove the mask, you need to have a process. So they have some processes in the diagram. Unfortunately, their machine was not there, but they seem to be a big player over here, and they're getting orders from a lot of domestic suppliers. So that seemed also interesting. Along with it, Grauer and Weil also has all this effluent management system and all, which are also catering to the EMS companies, because say some important material like you use, say for example some gold or something like that, or silver being used in the PCB, that dust gets collected through the supply, through the wastewater or something, and then they can kind of recycle that so that you don't lose that material. So those sort of activities also they are into. Any question on this
No,
one?
I think this is very interesting because Broward and Weil is a very old company, and in the traditional business. So very good to know that they are getting into some of these semiconductor component or PCB related work.
Yes. And as we backward integrate to PCB, their application just increases. Uh, so that's the main part of it. And that's where probably the industry is also going towards backward integration. Uh, and we'll not buy direct PCB boards, but we'll probably make the boards in the country itself. And that's where probably these sort of companies become important. So the next company that I found was BCC Fuba. This is a small player in the PCB. They can make like 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 layered PCB as per requirement. And they had a lot of, I mean, they are sort of like, they have the manufacturing process facility in India, and they make to order. So I was just asking like, what is the minimum quantity that they get? So it's like around 10,000 pieces a month sort of an order, and they do all the printing and everything together in the company. If you have to give them the Gerber file, which is an electronic file which is needed by them to make this layout, and they can do it. So they have all this testing and applications over there. So I just got it from their brochure that they had shared with me. Just a screenshot of it.
Okay.
So also an interesting company. And after that, I went to
So,
Elantis.
BCC FUBA, I mean, is it a listed company?
Yes, it's a listed company.
Oh,
It's a
I
small
didn't know
listed
that.
company.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so all the names that I have over here are listed. Please.
Acha.
I didn't.
I've actually not heard about this one.
Yeah, this is a listed player. Yeah. So shall I move forward?
Yeah.
Okay. The other company which I also found very interesting and their applications are also very
Elentus,
diverse was Elantis Beck. Yeah. Mainly their application is into all this conformal coating. So once you have made your PCBA, which is PCB assembly, you kind of put a coating on top of it for various purposes, heat, and then water. It shouldn't absorb water and all of those things. Then some PU coating as per their requirement, and then some plotting system for e-vehicles. And they have thermally conductive plotting, and they have many other sort of chemicals, something to kind of bond the parts together, or the bonding the housing together so that it doesn't allow water to go inside. So those sort of thing. As you go towards more durable electronics, something which is water resistant, dust resistance. So these sort of players come into picture. And and also they mentioned that their solutions are going into a lot of satellites. So those CubeSats and all getting produced. So they use Elantis' solution. So that was very interesting for me to hear. Yeah. So they have some
great.
this. Yeah, yes.
Very good.
They have some plain BESS as well as some conformal coating for PCB protection. So these are some of the things that they had mentioned in their brochure.
So BESS is now the latest or one of the latest buzzwords.
Yes.
What are they doing in BESS?
So in BESS, mostly it's these I don't know. They do all the chemical part of it. So for example, you have a BESS container or the battery pack. So you need to kind of put those two battery pack together. I mean you need to have the cells. Yeah. So one of the bigger application is thermal paste. So for example, your cells are pasted on the surface on the bottom, and you use instead of using normal adhesive, you use a thermally conductive adhesive so that heat gets transferred from your cells to outside. Else your cells will start heating. So those are solutions that will come from them. So you can see over here addition and all additive things.
Okay, very interesting.
Yeah, so that felt like, and what they mentioned was India produces, I think, around 25%. That's what they mentioned. 25% of the chemicals are available. Most of it they get abroad. I mean, they import it from their parent company and also from China. And I also heard the same feedback from other players also. So as a chemical, I think, again, there is a huge opportunity just looking at a volume of clay. I mean, if every PCB has to be coated, then it becomes a big play for volume wise as well. I'll move forward.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've again mentioned some of the activities that we do as a part of from PCB to PCBA. Like you have a BOM, bill of material, all the components that you need, resistor, capacitor. You do some solder paste printing on the PCB. So you make that whatever how you're going to paste that. So you put a kind of adhesive through a robotic machine. Then you have a pick and place assembly. So these are mostly foreign manufacturer. I didn't see any Indian player in the SMT assembly. You pick and play all this small components, and then you do soldering of it. Then if you have to do some hole, you do some through hole through the PCB, some soldering, and finally you do inspection, assembly, and then test and clean coat. Yeah. So in that, sorry. Yeah. So now I go to the components part of it. Some of the players over here. So one was Cosmoferrite. So Cosmoferrite basically makes cores for PCBs. They are used in electric vehicles and also charger applications. So you have some signal and there's some noise. You have a ferrite core which kind of filters the signal. So that sort of thing. Just give me 1 second. My alarm is ringing. I'll just shut it down and come back. Just give me a second. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry
no
for the
problem.
interruption. Yeah, so ferrites, I mean, it's an integral part of power electronics. They don't have much play in normal consumer electronics. So that was one interesting thing that we found. Next, we found Pidilite. Now, Pidilite, I mean, this is also, this should have been before along with Elantus, but I found that their new JV with Coltech, that's a Chinese company. So they have come up with again a lot of similar solution like Elantus, and again, I mean, the salesperson was very bullish on the demand that is coming from the industry, especially if you look at say a TWS speaker. So they have a lot of chemicals that goes into, I mean, adhesives, conformal coating, and various chemicals that goes into this sort of an assembly. So that was something. Even in battery pack systems, Pidilite had a lot of interesting plays.
So Pidilite, I mean, the name always brings a smile to my face, because this is one of the first few companies that I bought when I started investing in 2000. Right. So obviously, I mean, I didn't know much, and Pidilite, because everybody uses Fevicol. I bought Pidilite. I think it was the second or the third company I bought, and I mean, I didn't know much then. Not that I know a great deal now, but 20-25% it went up, and I sold. And after a few years, I realized that this is a company which uh, keeps compounding. So I again brought it back and then held on to it for many years. It's always been, and I keep still still keep reading their annual reports and tracking what they do. So very, 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 very well managed, very good company. Not
Yes.
surprised that they're getting into diverse applications.
Yes, and the salesperson said that this could be a very big driver because they are getting a lot of inquiries for such. As the assembly in India grows, say if you look at this one over here in a small TWS application, there's so many chemicals that goes, and Pidilite supplies almost everything. Again, most of it is imported, but they want to increase production in house.
Right.
I'll move forward.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Finally, I also saw TVS Electronics. Now we know about TVS Electronics. There's nothing much. They have a barcode scanner and a printer, which is used for all this assembly related work, and they have the software out of it. But what was interesting for TVS was they are also getting into the EMS part of the thing. So they are manufacturing a drone, or they're assembling a drone for a customer who owns the design and the IP, and they're doing it for them. So that sort of activity they are also getting into. Shall I move forward?
And did you get a chance to speak to them? I mean, what are their plans? I mean, do they want to expand that with to other clients, or how is it?
So yeah, they are taking orders. So actually, I asked them like if there were a use case from my side, will they be able to take it? They were very happy to design and also help me in design, procure the bomb, and also print it. So what I also found out was any entrepreneur right now, the ecosystem is such that I can go to TVS and I can tell them that, look, this is what I want to design, say a toy, right? And I have volumes of say 1,000 toys a month, sort of a volume. Uh, they will help. They'll kind of put a person along with me, and they'll help me design the electronics part of it, identify the components, and also procure the components and do all the assembly as well as the testing, and then deliver it to me. So I really found, and that was across the board. That was across all EMS players. You can take Keynes, you can take Sirma. In fact, I got follow-up calls from their sales team whether I was interested to build something. So
Oh, that's very nice.
yeah, that was really impressive from my point of view. So yeah, I mean that is going on. One unlisted player that I have identified or I saw was Loctite. Now this is a global company. Again, they in their display or their this thing brochure, all the uh, components or chemicals that are used was mentioned over here, and they had another sheet in the brochure where all the types of material or their branded material that is getting used was mentioned. I also found one Ellsworth named company which is into adhesive. So they are sort of like a distributor for chemicals, and they had mentioned a lot of names over here of large companies who are supplying to India. And this seems like an opportunity because these are places where probably domestic chemical manufacturers will start getting into, and some indigenization will start happening. So we only see Elantus, and I don't know if there's Pidilite, but yeah, 3M was there. Yes.
Yeah, 3M is the big daddy of all of these.
Yes. Yes. So and also some equipment manufacturer was present. So that was there. Any questions on this one?
No, no.
Okay. Then I went to Shivalik Bimetals stall. They make shunts which are used again in EVs and also the chargers. They also make bimetals for smart meters. So that is there. I mean, that is a big theme again. And these guys are also getting into modules. And their thesis was that, look, we are already making shunts. We'll make modules and we'll cater to the smaller OEMs. I mean, people who are coming up with EVs on a smaller scale or different form factor. They want to supply these current sensing equipment, and current sensing equipments are very critical to EVs per se, because current is that signal. I mean, the value of current is very crucial to understand how much charge is left or what is the health of the battery and all of those things. On the left hand side, there are some contactors. These are contacts that they make and they sell it to various companies, electrical companies. So these are electrical contacts. So again, they were also sort of very bullish on the demand that is growing in the industry. And I think Shivalik supplies to Mahindra, as far as I know. Yeah, so that is also positive. Even I was very surprised, even their global competitor, Isabella Hute, was also present in, they also had a stall in over here.
Okay.
They did not care about India per se because they are anyways globally oriented, but they still had a stall. So I was also very positively surprised over them.
Okay.
And finally, I visited one small SME company, very small. I don't know if it's SME. Aimtron. They have very high margins. They are also into very niche areas and kind of growing. They also had a lot of components. So that was kind of like everything from the visit.
Okay, I think very, very interesting. So, what was your overall, takeaway, or what was your experience like, having visited so many stalls, so many companies? What was your, takeaway in terms of the fact that uh, is the kind of work that Indian companies are doing? Uh, how does it stack up with some of the global players if they had stalls here?
So Dapa one, my biggest takeaway was India is definitely a point of interest for the global players because you saw all the machine manufacturer, capex manufacturers. I mean, anyways, those line, the testing, and all of those players already present, and they had India, and they had either opened their India division very recently or they are in the process of opening. The local players were also competitive, and you can see that by the amount of people who were visiting those stalls. So, I mean, the interest was very high. So, I mean, the floor was completely filled with people, and mostly these guys were SMEs, MSMEs, or I fortunately met some of my old colleagues from Bosch and as well as Mercedes, and these guys did not visit, but they also visited to kind of understand the
Very
ecosystem.
interesting because my experience with some of these trade exhibitions, fairs, whatever you call them, has been that a large number of people visiting are actually investors rather than people from the industry. In some places, in fact, I have seen there are more investors than actually industry people or customers and things like that. So, did you get that kind of a vibe that a lot of investors, have landed up there trying to understand what is going on, or there were more people from the industry trying to understand what the offerings are or where they can fit in and things like that?
So I think I went on the second day, and my feeling was there were a lot more traders and not traders as in like stock market traders, but people who are
The industry traders.
industry traders, yeah, industry traders, people who want to get updated. And as I told you, I was surprised to see my colleagues from Bosch also over there, and also I saw one person from Mercedes over there. So I mean, I felt this time, I mean, the ecosystem is building, and people went there to see what is happening, and a lot of key items were also discussed. I mean, kind of showcased some of the latest technology in the machining, from the machining point of view, or pick and drop and all of those things. And if you look at I mean, the amount of money that all this global players or Indian players have spent to set up the stall, which was so well organized. I mean, they're bringing in crores worth of machine in that stall so that they can display it, and they had all this you know all the working done over there. So that was also very interesting to note. They were just not there to tell that, hey, I make this, but they also wanted to take the customer's use case and help them with the process. Another thing that I found interesting was I kind of showcased that I have my own business, and I have some requirement, and people were very forthcoming. So that's where I gave my number to a lot of people, and I immediately started getting calls, and I still get calls in that number from a lot of guys. And especially I get calls from very senior people that, hey, you have some requirement, why don't we work together, sort of thing.
Okay.
So it kind of felt very positive. And yeah, I mean, probably in the next 4 or 5 years, the industry will start looking very different, and we might have a lot, even more Indian players showcasing their things.
When is the next one going to be held? Next year in some other city, right?
Yes, so in February 2026, it's going to be held in Noida, as far as I know. And again, end of the year, I think again it'll be held at Bangalore.
Very, very nice.
And
Very interesting.
and
Yeah,
yes.
you're saying something. Sorry.
No, that's it. I mean, there were 5 halls. I could only visit 3 of them. There were 2 more halls where Macforce was there and Vimta Labs were there. So Vimta is into all this electronic testing.
Testing.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and there's a colleague of mine who visited, and he was also very impressed because Vimta is kind of giving their testing solutions to EMS players, and they're getting a lot of traction. And Macforce, anyways, is very positive, and they are getting a lot of traction from small companies who wants to import items, and and Macforce sort of reduces the lead time and the paperwork needed. So their stall was also very interesting, as I have heard.
Very nice. Thank you, Gaurav. I think, see, one of the reasons why, I sort of wanted to do this was that manufacturing, especially electronic manufacturing, is at the cusp of a big, sort of move in India, right? It's going to go exponentially up from here, right? Because we've seen success, I think, with things like Apple manufacturing and a lot of other smaller players now starting to come in. And once 1 or 2 big players start doing it, then you get the ecosystem created exactly like you said, and then it sort of, this positive spiral starts from there. So this is a space which I feel is something, very, very interesting, something we should keep our eyes out on, and for the future, because there should be many, many interesting plays both in the small cap, mid cap space that would be coming up with different offerings, different products, which has the potential of creating a great deal of wealth. So thank you, Gaurav, once again for taking us through this.
Thank you, Dada. My pleasure.